Hi, my name is Drew Gephardt. I'm the International Services Manager. One of the things that I enjoy doing is working with faculty interested in creating study abroad programs. We have offered study abroad all over the world in many different subjects.
One of the benefits
Hello?
of a faculty
Hello?
member is that you have this sort of wraparound support.
Hello, everyone. We're going to get started in a couple minutes. So if you could find a seat, I'd really appreciate it. Get your food. We're going to have a short video as you sit down, so you can kind of watch a video on the office from the Office of International Education.
My class had the first time apply the passport and the first time go abroad and see the other side of the world.
I ran into one of the mothers of a student. She had just seen Drew in the international office. In her household, it is mandatory for all of her children to do a study abroad program. She saw just how much her daughter was positively affected by study abroad.
I want all of our students to experience that because it really helps you mature and grow as an individual.
This impacts the trajectory of their educational career, and important to us, their sense of identity in terms of the world, that your space is not limited to here, your space is everywhere.
It's a great way to stay connected with people from all over the world. The relationships you build, even with the people that you meet in the other country, are relationships that you can have forever.
Also learn some experience in their life, and they won't forget that memory.
When you have an experience where you're shown different ways by different people what is actually possible, it can be life-changing.
Students that study abroad have higher retention, success, and completion rates, bar none. It excites learning.
It's very unique for students at the community college level to get that experience abroad. They're really coming out well-rounded with the global experience.
It's something that gives students an experience and an edge over students who learn just in the classroom. Intercultural competency is one of the things students are going to need to be able to go into the workforce.
We talk about our students needing to get beyond that 40-mile radius. Faculty need to go beyond that 40-mile radius, beyond their masters and PhDs, and explore the world. You bring that richness back to your classroom. Taking students abroad benefits the institution as a whole.
I really encourage faculty to engage in study abroad, and I'm thankful that the Office of International Education supports in that process, and we're seeing more and more faculty submit proposals and think about how exciting it would be for them and their students to go abroad.
At the end of the day, it's not just the students that are going to learn. You are going to learn. You are going to grow.
Contact the Office of International Education, explore ideas, talk to other faculty who have been or are doing study abroad, and plan a trip.
Find us online by going to www.peralta.edu. Underneath the Students section, click on Study Abroad to learn more about our upcoming programs, previous programs, as well as if you're interested in designing your own study abroad program, what we can do to help.
If you're a faculty member thinking about undertaking a study abroad program, don't hesitate, don't sit on the fence, jump. You only have one time to live and make it count.
There's nothing that's going to
There we go. You can represent both. Good morning, Peralta. If everyone could take a seat, and we'll get started. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Scott Hoshida. I'm the Staff Development Officer for the district. I'm also an English faculty at Berkeley City College. I use the pronouns he, him, and they, there, whatever. And I want to welcome you to the beginning of spring 2020, the new decade. How's the sound here? Is it a little, is it okay? The new decade, the new year. We have a lot of new beginnings today. Before we get started, I really want to make sure I say, next slide, please. I don't know if this is working. Thank you to all the folks that really make an event like today happen. Someone had written to me and said, oh, to Scott and your elves. And they are kind of magical in that they are behind the scenes and don't get a lot of credit. So at Merritt, there's Jane Fong, Tara Marrero, Dale Nabeta, Maria Suarez Rodriguez. The AV, we can give a hand, yes, thank you, Merritt folks. And many others who I probably didn't mention, so I'm sorry. AV Tech, we have Diana Fitzgerald, Angel Hunter, Jim, Cecilia. Catering is Alfred from Laney, June Kim from Fresh and Natural. And the Academic Affairs team, who really supports me. I've learned a great deal about the amount of work that they take on in the office to support all the work that happens at the colleges. It's hidden, and it's super important. I really appreciate Shanova, Nishan, Laura, Constance, and Michael Moore in the copying room. So give everyone a round of applause. As you look through the program, there's a lot of different activities going on, and I think all the people who are participating are showing a bit of leadership and interest in kind of sharing what they've learned and what their knowledge is, and kind of trying to inspire each other. And I feel like in Peralta we have a lot of that going on, more than sometimes we'd like to admit. And so it's super important that when you go to the workshops, thank people. Spend the time to really appreciate them. I'll talk about that. Should I step back? Okay, next slide. Let's see if we can go to the next slide. Really quickly, some logistics. So room changes. Communications, Humanities, and Journalism will be in S305, not in the library room. All the evaluations can be completed online. There's a QR code in the agenda. If you use your phone, you can fill out an evaluation there. I will provide some evaluations in the packets for presenters, but really we can do them all online. All packets for presenters can be picked up under Huey P. Newton over there. And lunch will be served in the discipline meetings. We'll cart the lunches to the S building, and facilitators, if you could pick up those lunches there, we'll get them out to the meetings over there. Are there any other logistical announcements? I think that's it. We're lucky today because when I was here, the sun was blazing through and we couldn't see the screen. And so the rain is sometimes a blessing, right? It's good for many other reasons, but for today we can actually see what's on the screen. One last thing before we get rolling with the rest of the day is, can we go to the next screen, please? So just to tell you a quick little story, I was at a meeting and people were talking about their intentions for the year, and one person stood up, she said, I'm going to give myself permission to have a little bit of hope this year. And my initial reaction was, well, what about that this last year was the hottest, on record, the second hottest on record. We have these impeachment hearings. We have this housing crisis. Like all these issues that kind of are, overwhelming to me and to, just thinking about how we kind of feel about the world. And then I was thinking more locally in Peralta. We have, obviously, the FICMAT and the reports. We have negotiations happening. And there's a lot of really difficult things happening. But then as I was kind of thinking back about all the times, I spend time going to each of the campuses and talking to the professional development committees, people trying to do work. It's an integrated group of staff, faculty, administrators trying to put things on. And I realized there's actually a lot of cool things happening, a lot of intentions that are out there, and that we have to kind of keep cultivating that. There's a lot of stuff that's we can build on. And with that kind of idea in mind, I wanted to post intentions here. So these sheets, if you didn't get one, they're right to the right of the Huey P. Newton painting. You can think about your intentions either for the year or the decade, and we're going to hang them up, and I'll take some pictures of them. They're anonymous. In the past, I've done other ways of engaging people, like raffles. That was not good. I did gratitude cards, where we asked people to write gratitudes to people who they thought really had helped them and supported them, and that went around really great. I sent them out to people, they wrote them down. And then last year, this fall, I did something where we did some values work, talked about the values that we want to bring when we work together. So this intention wall is to kind of at least take one little glimmer of an intention for the year. It doesn't have to be big, it can be outlandish, it can be whatever you want it to be, to put it out there for ourselves. So please do it, and we'll have a chance to take a look at that. All right, let's go do a quick overview of the day, and then we'll launch into our welcomes. So just the morning plenary goes until about, hopefully, 10:45. There's shared governance welcomes. Can we go to the next slide, please? This is not working. The Chancellor, our new Chancellor, will give an address. And then a lot of times after the Chancellor's address, people run. But we have this amazing performance that's going to happen by Greer City Youth Theater. So it's not going to be talking heads and PowerPoints. It is going to be something that you will feel, and I'll have my mentor and colleague Janine come and introduce them. After that, we'll have breakout sessions in the late morning, lunch, and then 2 afternoon breakouts. And you can see that all in the program. Okay? So let's get started with the shared governance welcomes. So if I could invite, I think Richard is not able to make it today, but Alejandro, Jennifer Shanoski, and Donald Moore to come up. We'll have them come do introductions. Please give them a hand. These are leaders who are working to support the work that we do and participate in this.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to 2020. I am the Vice President of the Peralta Classified Senate. My name is Alejandro, and Terrence Fisher, who's the president, wasn't able to be here, so he asked me to come say welcome to everyone. I want to particularly welcome all the classified professionals that are able to make it here today. And just, you know, we have a newly elected executive team of the Peralta Classified Senate. Myself, Terrence, Roberto Gonzalez is our parliamentarian, and then Doris Hankins is our treasurer. And, you know, I just want to say to all the classifieds who are here, please come to the meetings. We're going to try to be switching it to rotating, holding the meetings between the 4 campuses to make it easier for folks to come and participate. You know, as Scott alluded to, in the world in general and in, you know, Peralta right now specifically, we're in like a big moment of change, of like hopefully new exciting things that are on the horizon. And it's really important for us, all of our constituencies, you know, to be around the table, to try to reach consensus and try to like, you know, put, to just get our input into the process moving forward so it can be like the best possible outcomes for the institution as a whole. Richard Thoele, the 10-1 president, wasn't able to be here. I just found out. And I'm a steward at Laney College, so I'd also say on behalf of 10-1, you know, we're getting ready to begin contract negotiations. So also classifieds, take that survey if you haven't already, and just, you know, be looking out for updates on the negotiation process as it begins. Thank you.
Hey, good morning. Happy New Year to the faculty, staff, administrators, and I saw some students out there in the audience. I'm really happy to be back at Merritt today. I miss being here at Merritt. I miss the faculty, I miss the staff, I miss the administration, and I miss the view every day. But most of all, I really miss the students that I've had the privilege to serve in the years that I've been here at Merritt. When I first applied to a full-time job here at Merritt, I actually did it on a whim. It came up as a listing. I had another job that I had already been accepted for, and I was set to work somewhere else. But when I came here for my interview, I was about 20 minutes early. This might make me cry. I was about 20 minutes early, and I was walking through the parking lot, and I met a couple of students. And so I just asked them, hey, tell me about Merritt. I didn't really know anything about Merritt. And they described this place as home. And they described the faculty and the staff as people that really felt like family to them, and this as an institution that had really changed their lives. And that, as well as my interview and the interactions that I had with the faculty and staff here during that day, changed the course of my career. And so I did not go to the other institution, and I came here. I really wanted to be a part of what those students felt so strongly about. And I think all faculty and staff that I've had, you know, the pleasure of interacting with feel the same way. We all want to be part of that feeling. It's why we come here. It's why we figure out creative ways to get what our students need, despite the many, many obstacles that stand in all of our ways. It's why we work in classrooms and offices that are falling apart, that are often too hot or too cold or leak. It's why we continue to participate in meetings and committees, and why we continue to hope for a better outcome with each new set of administrators that come through the door with new ideas and new plans. In the last month, our administration has ordered hundreds of sections to be cut from our schedules, with more to be cut next year. We're removing class offerings, many that have sizable enrollments, from our schedules in an attempt to be more productive. We're treating our colleges like businesses, and we're doing that to the detriment of the programs and of our students. We're treating our workers, faculty and staff alike, like disposable cogs in the productivity wheel. I'm not naive. I do understand that we cannot run our colleges without the funding that comes directly from our students and those headcounts. But I can also look at data, and I can read all of the reports that we've seen, and I think it's important that we do continue to question the decisions that are being made based on the facts that we have available to us. The executive summary of the FCMAT report that we've heard so much about is 2 full pages long. Productivity and enrollment do appear, of course. We know that this is a problem, but they appear in 2 out of the 15 paragraphs. So I encourage you to read through that entire report. When I looked at comparisons from the state's data on productivity, I see that productivity around the state is low, and that we're actually right in the middle of the Bay 10. We're not as bad as what we're being told. We also see that our funding in dollars per FTES from our general fund are right in the middle of the state. We're 30th out of 72 districts in terms of funding dollars per FTES. That does not include categorical funds, and it doesn't include the parcel tax money that taxpayers in our community generously gave us to support more classes, not less. I could go on with comparisons and data that indicate that we're being told a story that isn't quite true. But I'll just say this: faculty and staff are not the source of Peralta's woes. The problem lies with short-sighted decisions made again and again, far away from the students and the people who know them best, faculty and staff. Faculty are in an unnecessary labor dispute. We're fighting over $600,000. We've been working under an expired contract since July 1st. It is vital that we settle this contract now and allow the groups that work with students every single day to be able to focus on the work that we do of making our colleges what we know them to fundamentally be. Folks laughed when I said this in the fall, and I will dare to say it again. I remain an optimist. That's why I came to Peralta, and I know it's why many of my brothers and sisters on the faculty and staff came here too. And maybe that's why I'm hopeful that we can work with our new chancellor and her team to help them learn about the real strengths and real weaknesses of this wonderful, if sometimes frustrating place. With hard work and a commitment to what matters, we can build the district and colleges that our students deserve. Thank you for your time, and have a great semester.
Good morning, everyone. I see the storm has come in full force now. Double check your classrooms to see if there's any water coming down and that type of stuff. But I want to extend a hand of collegial engagement with our new chancellor, Dr. Regina Stanback Stroud. I want the Academic Senate to work cooperatively with the Board of Trustees, the Chancellor, the Vice Chancellors, and the college presidents. Work with us. Let us provide you with our collective advice on academic matters. For the past decade, we have changed our practices to be more student-centered. We have changed our online platform. We have changed our student placement processes. We have incentivized students to jump right into college-level math and English with the requirement that we provide more tutoring and counseling support to be more student success focused. More recently, a major change has been in how we fund, how to maximize certificates, transfer, graduation rates, how to encourage students to have 6 units, to take 9 units, to take 12 units, to take 16 units. These overall changes have been difficult, or to keep many, have been difficult, whether to drop other lower courses or to keep the lower courses, particularly in English. Each of our colleges have made decisions on how to address and implement these changes. Are we doing the deeper dive in assessing the effectiveness and efficiency of these changes? Do we have the resources to provide some level of the wraparound services many of our students need? As our colleges gear up to map their students' ability to graduate or to earn that certificate in a year or 2 years, how do we engage the faculty for students to not only take the lectures and the labs, but to take all of the courses along their pathway? The Academic Senate has been and will continue to provide support for all of these issues, whether at the college level with all the issues around administrative support, having adequate number of administrators, academic chairs, working with deans to ensure courses are being staffed at the last moment. At the State Senate, they have provided more workshops, institutes, and so forth, like AB 705 workshops, guided pathway workshops, accreditation workshops, and more. In the coming months and years, we, the collective we, need to get us out of the fiscal mess that we're in, and that's the plan that we're involved in right now. We need to resolve the issues that our union is currently negotiating. I hear the frustrations of our faculty. I say this because all of this impacts our teaching and the focus on students that we all want. Thank you.
All right. I think you can change the slide, and the clicker doesn't seem to be working, so just so you know. Just really quickly, some housekeeping. If you're standing in the back, there's a ton of seats over here. So I know it's hard to go individually, but if you move together, it doesn't feel so lonesome to kind of come up into the front. Something I tell students when they're like spread out, pasted against the back room. I want to introduce our new chancellor, Dr. Regina Stanback Stroud. She has an enormous amount of experience in the California community college system. I think it's appropriate that we're at Merritt, where we have a nursing program, because she started off as a professor of nursing, has worked as a dean, a vice president of instruction, and as a president. And I think in addition to that, she's worked at the state academic senate level. She has a great deal of knowledge about some of the policies that we are trying to debate about and discuss. And she's also built an equity institute at Skyline that I know a number of my colleagues have gone and had great things to report at. I know another group is actually heading there this spring. And I would just like to say I would love to give her a very warm welcome to the middle of the semester, and I'm sure that she'll have a much bigger kind of send-off or kickoff at the beginning of next semester, but I want to thank you for coming in, to being willing to speak today. So if you could help me in welcoming Dr. Regina Stanback Stroud, our new chancellor.
Thank you. The first thing I'd like to do is start off with thanking Merritt College for being such a gracious host. It requires work to do this kind of stuff. And when it requires that kind of work, it means that you have to kind of clean up, get the house in order, and even when it's family, we know that you put a lot into it. So thank you very much, Merritt College. Thank you, Dr. Johnson. The next thing I'd like to do is just acknowledge the leadership throughout the district. The leadership is the faculty, the collective bargaining leadership for the different organizing groups, also the faculty academic senate, the classified senate as well, the student leadership. I'd like to particularly acknowledge the executive leadership. I have the pleasure of working with Dr. Siri Brown, who is the Vice Chancellor of Academic Services, Chanel Whitaker, who is the interim Vice Chancellor of Human Resources. I have the pleasure of working with Vice Chancellor Min Lam as well, the Director of Marketing, Public Relations, Communications and Public Relations, and also Vice Chancellor Lee Sata. So thank you so much to the executive leadership and all of the district staff that are there supporting us. And then a special thanks to the staff in my office. The staff in my office, even though yesterday they did a little bit of a intervention on me. So they say I have a problem with pen theft, but actually it's not true, okay? But Brenda did say to me that the first step is admitting it. So for many of you, it's our first opportunity to meet. And so it's my pleasure to be able to be here. Some of you had an opportunity, I had a chance to meet with you in the forums, but for those of you who I didn't, I just want to tell you a little bit about me. As Scott said, I am a registered nurse. I continue to be a registered nurse. When I went into administration, I decided that I needed to give myself tenure. I have employable skills, so I continue to keep my license. But the reality is, it's part of my identity. And I did work as a dean, a vice president of instruction, a dean of workforce and economic development, and as a college president. And then I went on to retire after 35 years from a very good district in this system. And my intention was to, I'm a little bit of a Francophile, so I'm a wannabe, okay. My language is terrible, but my intention was to retire and to spend time in Paris because I frequent there. I go there frequently. And I did just that. 7 weeks, I was in Europe and got a call from Bryce Harris and told me about this opportunity. And in speaking with my wife, we decided we're Oaklanders. This is our community. And we would go and make sure that we had an opportunity to contribute to our community. So I went from Paris to Peralta in 7 short weeks, and I'm glad to be here. The other thing is I just do want to share that I have particular interest. And those interests, while they're comprehensive, some of the things that I really spend some of my leisure time on and professional time is science. I'm on a few boards that are related to science, the Base 11 board, which is the automated drone technology system. I'm on the MaxGrad board, which is a technological board. I'm on the Sierra Nevada Journeys, which is a outdoors-based science education experience. And anybody who knows me knows that my idea of camping is a bad room at the Claremont. So they're wondering how on earth I got to that, but I've been very committed to it. I also am very committed to anti-poverty and social justice, and in looking so, I've had the opportunity to do lots of different things, including starting Spark Points and creating promise programs, serving as a presidential appointee to President Obama, and engaging in a lot of work around critical race. And then I'm also interested in world peace, and that gets translated into my work in international awareness. I'm a Delta Sigma Theta, and part of that which is a Black Black organization of collegiate women, where we are committed to the supporting the African American community. And in doing so, I chair the International Awareness and Involvement Committee, and we work to increase people's awareness of international opportunities, because I ultimately do believe that when you are exposed to other cultures and you get to enjoy the majesty of those cultures, that you get to see the humanity, that it's just very hard to then think about killing people. So I absolutely do believe that the key to world peace is our own international awareness and involvement. So I entered Peralta Community College and got very quickly, didn't take long to get a good picture of what's going on. There's a lot of outside negative noise, and that outside negative noise tends to drown out all that's positive that's inside the district. And so what we find is that the outside community gets to hear precisely what we, and see precisely what we allow, and that we may not intend. And with that outside negative noise, then it means that news media will pick up certain things. It means that we see what's happening, but we don't see the whole story. Much like you got today, where you heard a certain perspective, but you haven't heard the whole story. So once you're inside and you witness some of the things, then that's where you have the opportunity to be able to make the changes, be committed to the preservation of the institution, and that's precisely what I made a commitment to do. I saw amazing programs and services. I saw students who were willing to persevere. I saw people who come here and dedicate their life's work to preserving the institution. So let's move right in. We are facing a lot of challenges. One of the things you will hear about is the FITMAC. And the FITMAC is the Financial Crisis Management Assistance Team, which is a support service that actually Peralta called in and said, take a look at us. And they look at you through about maybe a little over 125 standards. And they ask you questions and then give you a score based on how you've answered those questions or been able to produce the evidence. If you have a score of about 40%, then it's considered to be, you're considered to be at pretty high risk of fiscal insolvency. Peralta's score was 69%. So they also, Peralta called in CBT and said, well, give us some recommendations, we need to fix that. CBT came in and gave us some recommendations as well. We're working on both of those recommendations. But that got the attention of the Accrediting Commission. And they said, if you're at 69% on your FICMAC, then you need to give us a 5-year sustainability plan, how you're going to sustain yourself fiscally. So we had to develop a 5-year sustainability plan. Much of the work was done before I arrived. But when I arrived, on October the 21st, we had received the FITMAC recommendations in July. From July to October, the end of October, we had shifted probably about 6 of those standards, maybe 6 of those standards out of 90. And then in 3 weeks, I had to say to the commission how successful or unsuccessful we were in meeting those standards. So we went into high gear, focused on it, and in 3 weeks, shifted to where we got 50% of the standards shifted to favorable. Now, the reason that's significant is because if the Accrediting Commission, which I have to go before today, this evening, if the Accrediting Commission has confidence that Peralta is really doing well and will be able to do what it says it's going to do and will follow through, this us, and we don't have an untoward impact on our accreditation. If they have no confidence in us, then that's the next step where they say to us, you need to show us cause why you should even maintain your accreditation. So my phone call this evening with them is a vital one. The focus that we have had has been on these things, so I haven't quite been on the listening tour and those types of things that I really would have enjoyed doing, though that's coming. And in speaking with the accrediting folks, when I spoke with Stephanie Droker, she said to me, Regina, if you can show them, if Peralta can get to where you've at least made 50% headway, I'm sure the commission will have confidence. I'll let you know how that conversation goes, but I will tell you that we did get to at least 50% headway. The other thing that I'd like to talk a little bit about is, part of those recommendations including review of the organization. And in doing so, we built on some work that was done before I got here. I think the PBIM did a summit and talked about what it needed in terms of centralized versus decentralized services, among other things. Then the PBIM work group came together and developed some design principles that they asked the executive leadership to keep in mind when we are looking at the organization of the district. And then the executive leadership has been engaged in some processes, and in those processes, the executive leadership has looked at what will be centralized and decentralized. And I'll give you a heads up. You probably will have seen the effects. We're looking at decentralizing financial aid so that the services that the students need to access are closest to the students, so on the campuses. So financial aid and ultimately A&R. We're looking at centralizing some of the things like facilities and maintenance and IT. And that has a lot to do with being able to organize priorities. For an example, when Merritt's power went out, because the services are decentralized, people could literally be standing right beside each other, but phone calls had to be made over here in order to get supervisors to say to the two different people, that they were, how they might collaborate in order to accomplish something in the middle of this emergency. And so looking at the services, we're looking at centralizing facilities and maintenance. The other thing that is big is the enrollment decline. Over the last 5 years, the Peralta Community College District has lost around 30% of its enrollment. That is significant. That is very significant. And in doing so, the productivity has gone down. And I happen to know a little something about productivity, and productivity is really the measure by which we determine how you're doing in terms of the fiscal responsibility, this fiscal stewardship of the resources you get from the state. So if you look at, I'll give you an example, if I teach a class and Dr. Brown teaches a class, if I have 30 students in my class and she has 2 students in a class, we both get paid the same amount for that class. However, I'm considered to be much more productive. Sorry, Siri. In my example, I'm considered to be much more productive. Now, it is not a cut and dry thing that way. For an example, you make sure you stay a comprehensive community college. You make sure programs and services are able to be done. You make sure students are able to complete degrees. So it actually is a little bit of an art, and that is part of the responsibility in the enrollment management. So when you look at issues of productivity, it's a little bit more than the number. It's so many other things so that students can get degrees and certificates. And yes, we will pay attention to that. And yes, we will right-size these institutions because in the course of those 30% decrease, the institution has hired an additional 48 faculty. And yes, we will pay attention to that. We are 70 over the fund. And it doesn't mean that everything is done on the backs of faculty as it was alluded to, but it means that it is part of the process as well. So yes, we will be meeting those recommendations, and those recommendations are around us right-sizing the institution. And with that comes a fiscal monitor that's paying attention to whether we're doing the very hard things that have to be done. So it is unfortunate, and I have, I'm remorseful that this is the culture and climate that we have, but it is. I'm hopeful that we will get through it because I think the community deserves so much better. Hell, I think people in this room deserve better than what they're seeing right now. And when you have that kind of an enrollment decline, it's a chance for us to look at things like, why is that? Is it because, I mean, we have lots of reasons. The economy is better, there's gentrification. There are lots of very legitimate reasons. But it's also an opportunity for us to look at ourselves. What is it about us, our practices, processes, and procedures that impacts an ability for the students and the community to be able to get in, get through, and get out on time? What is it about us? Hold up that mirror. Is your curriculum relevant? Do we have the programs that the community needs? Do they match to some of the things where if students need to be able to, or community members need to be able to access certain workforce? Do we have the mechanism for them to be able to do that? Do we have the relationships that we need to have? So it's not reduced to the utilitarianism of economic and workforce development. There is actually something that is a benefit in order for us to be liberally educated and for us to be able to think critically. But in the meantime, the mortgage's got to be paid, or the rent's got to be paid, or the children have to be fed. And so our community, while we come to work every day, and we come from our nice homes, get out of our cars, we come to our jobs, and we receive our salaries. We have community members and students who are trying to make it off of $15,000 a year in this Bay Area. So it means that we have to look at ourselves as well. So what about our success, our track record? Across the nation, about 26% of the people who go to community colleges are able to get what they came for. They get their degrees and certificates, all right? At Peralta, it's different. If you look at it in 2 or 3 years. If you look at it in 2 or 3 years across the nation, it's about 26%. If you look at it about across the nation in 6 years, it's even more. In Peralta, in 6 years, half the students who come here for a degree or certificate, half will get it in 6 years, all right? But if I take it down to 2 years to 3 years, it's single digits. And what that means is, let's be generous. Let's say it's 9%. Let's go to the highest single digit. That is 9%, and it's not, it's much lower. But let's say it's 9% of the students who come to Peralta who want a degree or certificate or transfer do so in 2 to 3 years. Let's say it's that. That means 91% of the people who come here for a degree or certificate or to transfer do not in 3 years. So from my perspective, there needs to be some different signs held up in this room. And that gets me to the culture of the institution. I have to admit, I understand the regular structural tensions of higher education between administration and faculty and staff and students, and there are regular structural tensions. And then there's Peralta. I have to acknowledge there are challenges, but this is not rocket science. We've seen this movie before. We know how we can get to the end of some of these issues. Some of it is settled science, some of it is a nice art, but we know how we can get to the end of some of these issues. But I also want to acknowledge that there is a level of meanness, disrespect, and contempt and vitriol that gets spewed in this district that impacts the culture. It impacts what we have to work in every day. It means people have to come to work every day and experience it, regardless of where they are. When I introduced myself to this district, it was through an email where I was having to call on our better selves to understand and respect and have compassion for the humanity of us. That regardless of the constituency group you were in, from my perspective, that's somebody's mother, that's somebody's sister, that's somebody's uncle, that's somebody's brother. And we have the opportunity to model something different. We have the opportunity to model excellence and professionalism and respect instead of contempt and vitriol. And we also have the right to ask of ourselves and our colleagues to not turn our workplace and our place where we make our commitments into that type of a place. We have a right to that. None of us have to be apologetic for the work that we do. If you are a classified professional, it is honorable work. If you are a faculty member, it is honorable work. If you are an administrator, it is honorable work. And I will tell you, I am unapologetic about it. I am unapologetic about it, and I am appreciative of it all. It takes all of us in this village. It takes all of us. So, how do we create a sense of respect and a sense of belonging? I want us to be careful that you don't take pride in your citizen just because you're clumsy with your power, and because you lack the critical consciousness and racial literacy that you do not get to escape. I am a critical race scholar. It is not lost on me who is making the attacks and to whom is being and who is being attacked. It is not lost on me, and it may not be intentional, but you don't have the luxury of ignoring it. So I want you to look around right now and see who's standing. Look around right now and see who's standing. Thank you, sister in the back. I think there's one sister in the back. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not necessarily. Yeah, I'm not trying to invalidate your participation. I'm saying that even you don't have the luxury of not paying attention to the racial dynamics that occur in this district, and it's not just about this. So, in terms of the culture, there are lots of different things, and I'm looking forward. I, too, like Jennifer, am optimistic. That's why I come here every day. I am looking forward to the change and I have a vision for the change in Peralta. But I do want to alert you to the fact that one of the things that I believe that contributes to this maintenance of this culture is we have not gotten our email systems in place or intact. Right now, everybody can send everything to everybody across the district. The result is your inboxes get filled with anything from fundraising to sales to the rant or vitriol. You have public disparagement of individuals in the district. My favorite example is before I got an email address before I came, and even in trying to figure out, ooh, is this someplace I want to go? There was an email that was from somebody who was frustrated with their mistake in their payroll. And by the time I finished reading the email, it had, "Bitch, better have my money." I come from whence I come, just doesn't happen, just impossible. And that was just the beginning. And I believe people got those emails. It went to everybody in the district. And I believe people opened those emails and started their day like that. The creation of this excessive vitriol is facilitated by our system. So, one of the things that we want to look at is making sure that district email is for district business. Now, there's a lot of dissemination also of misinformation, and it's just hard to keep up with. I'll be honest and tell you that I'm at the point of, you know, kind of how you deal with Trump stuff. You can't even answer it anymore, you know. So there's a lot of misinformation, and it has liability for us. For an example, when the power went out, a staff member in the library at one of the colleges decided to send out an all-district email telling everybody what they needed to do, which was a surprise because it has implications. Like, suppose somebody doesn't show up to work because they got that email thinking it's the official message. So we're going to fix that. What we want to do is make sure, one, all of the constituents have the opportunity to hear from and receive information from their leaders. So that means Local 39 will be able to email all of its constituents. PFT will be able to email all of its constituents. The academic senates at the colleges will be able to email the faculty at the colleges. The classified senates will be able to email the classified, et cetera. So those permissions will stay. The second thing is for people who want to engage in the, what I call the community conversations, whether it's the, Girl Scout cookies for sale to I don't like this policy, blah, blah, blah. We're going to set up listservs, and everybody who wants to opt in can opt in, and you can get all that you want. And those who don't want that coming across their email don't have to opt in, and you don't have to get any of it. So we'll be looking at that in the next 30 days. So, that's some hard stuff. All of those comments are the not so fun things, but there's some fun stuff. There's some, as Jennifer calls it, optimism, that we can keep hope alive. So I want to go to that. Thank you. I think leadership matters. I think it matters at all levels. I happen to be an expert on this one, but I think it matters at all levels. And so I asked this team to show up differently. I don't believe we have the luxury of mediocrity. I think people are counting on us to get it right. And I asked this team to use its position of influence and consequence to make difference in the lives of students, faculty, and professional staff. And we came together as a district administration, and overall, all of the leaders across the district had a retreat at the district office, and we developed the administrative standards of excellence. And that is, what standards of excellence do the faculty, staff, and community have a right to have access to in their administration? And then we have to, and we adopted that, and now we have to see how does that play out. So I'll give you an example. Let's say one of the standards is about responsiveness and service. For me, what that means is a document doesn't sit on my desk more than 2 days for a signature. So imagine if that's adopted throughout this district. Now, that's a simplistic example, but it's a very real example that impacts lives, and that comes to mind because when I came to Peralta, in November, I signed a document that I saw had started in August. And it took 4 months for it to get up the 580, across the hall, and to my desk. And it's not because anybody is doing anything intentionally mean or not being of service. It has anything to do with our practices and our processes to vacant positions where there is not a person to process that purchase order that you think you asked for 4 months ago. So there's a lot of work that we'll be doing, but in doing so, we're doing so adhering to some standards of excellence. It's incorporated in the job descriptions, and it's incorporated in the evaluations of the leadership team. So every job description that you see go out, where we're recruiting people, they will have to make a commitment to those standards of excellence. So, what's the vision? I have a vision for Peralta, but the reality is we're going through a strategic plan, and others may have a vision as well. And there may be some really great ideas, and especially because you've been here in Peralta and you know this community, you're going to be able to perfect this vision. Or shift it, or modify it. But here's what I'm thinking. First of all, my vision for Peralta is that the colleges in this district are models of excellence, models of academic excellence, and models of professionalism with an excellent reputation. So when somebody says Peralta Community College District, or when somebody says Berkeley City College, Laney College, College of Alameda, Merritt College, that in saying that, it automatically conjures up that good reputation, that model of excellence. We'll have a lot to do to get there. My vision is that this is a great place to live and work. And what that means is we resolve a lot of the issues, that the faculty and staff and administration are well paid, that we have a kind of culture of respect and belonging where people want to be here and enjoy being here, and that we're responsive to the community, and we translate those community needs and demands into relevant programs and services that get them there. That this could be a great place to work. My vision is that we become a major source of social and cultural capital for the communities. There are communities all around that have all kinds of social and cultural capital. You know, Palo Alto will tell you every day they got Stanford. These communities, commonly communities that don't enjoy that kind of social and cultural capital, deserve to have access to that. We could be that for these communities, where they look to Peralta Community College and are glad that we are part of their service and see us as a social institution, educational institution that is part of meeting their needs. And my vision is that we become an economic engine for this community. That means that we'll be looking at different programs and services. So for an example, we have one of the colleges has one job place center in the entire district. I know we have career services and those types of things, but job placement is critical, not only because the community needs to have access to job placement, but because also it's one of the drivers in your funding formula, and the students deserve to have access to that service, and we deserve to get the resources from the state in order to provide that service. So those are little examples of how we will do certain things toward a greater vision of being the economic engine for this community. My vision is that we are a cultural center for the members of this community that are typically denied having access to a cultural center. The things that are going on these campuses are amazing. The speakers, the activities, the events are amazing. And we need to make sure that the community has access to them and knows about them. So as we go through our strategic planning processes, or you go through your files, or you go through your Rolodex in your mind, if you have ideas about what this district could be, what these colleges to be, please do inform the strategic planning process so that we can make sure that those visions are realized. It is going to take all of us to get to where we want to go. The key thing is that we have to have some notion of where that is, and more so, we have to have the willingness to get there. With you, it is beyond possible. It is inevitable. I hope that you have a great flex day today and tomorrow, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the semester. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor Stroud. Couple things. I'd like to invite the performers to come up. The microphones are over here, so you guys are getting set up. This is going to be my last Flex Day because I'm going to be moving on from this role. Oh, thank you. Oh. Wow. Oh, chills, thank you. Appreciate that. And I realized one of the goals was to bring us up many faculty and leaders to bring them up on stage to practice being in front of folks and to share kind of the vision that they have. And I was like, you know, I've been working really closely with Janine on this idea, an inquiry, a community practice about how do you build a trauma-informed institution. She's a mental health counselor that came on at Berkeley City College. We've been working closely together. She's put on these amazing events that she's going to talk about a little bit about. And I really want to just say, like, working with Jean has been, just as in the work with so many of us, right? Where do we get our energy? It's often from each other. I mean, from our students, of course, but from real connections with each other that can help hold us as we go through the difficult times. And Janine has been one of those rocks for me. We've always had great meetings, and even though we're not always perfect, we found a way to kind of build community and to begin to build things. So I just want to introduce her, give her a round of applause. She's going to introduce our speakers for the day.
Hello, Peralta family, 2020. Woo! Can you feel the change in the wind? Can you feel the change in the wind? And the trouble about change is that it's unsettling, right? You don't always feel so comfortable when things are changing, right? You start that new diet, the keto diet, and you can't eat any sugar, or you can't eat this or that, right? It's not comfortable, and you're grouchy. So when I think about responding to uncertainty and responding to change, I think about coming together. And I think about coming together on purpose, for a reason. And so Scott mentioned, and I call Scott my sensei, my Japanese teacher, because he's that, and he's affected a lot of us, and I'm so sad that he's not going to be our staff development officer, but that's opportunity for somebody else to pick up the torch and keep running like he was running. I feel excited about that too. But so these solidarity and mental health summits started with a FIG, a faculty inquiry group between Scott and Heather Dodge, who's on sabbatical right now, and myself, and we were thinking about what does it mean to be a trauma-informed college? We've got trauma, our students have trauma. Do we have denial letters here? No. Everybody gets to come, all kinds of functioning. You're running from your husband that's been abusing you? Come on in. You have schizophrenia? Come on in. You're a veteran? PTSD? Come on in. We will curate your dreams with you. We're here, no denial letters, all kinds of functioning. So we're thinking about, like, if we're going to be trauma-informed, are we doing the best we can to make sure that we're not re-traumatizing our students? And we're not re-traumatizing ourselves by re-traumatizing our students, right? And so part of the project, we got to film or screen this film called Resilience, which we have access to. And Scott can tell you how to go online and take a peek at it. And it talks about adversity in childhood and how it affects your health and how it affects your brain wiring in childhood and how that affects your decision making in adulthood and all that good stuff. And so we were thinking, okay, let's get together and think about how might mental health affect our students. Let's come together. In the last summit, we talked about incarceration. And I had the opportunity to meet this amazing lady who's like a new family friend to me. I have a big love in my heart. She's a director of the Gritty City Repertory. And she came one day and did a presentation to a handful of us, at the TLC, and talked about this repertory theater that she has, and she's helping young people learn about theater, and they're writing plays, and they're learning about the business, and she's able to pay some of them, and I'm like, wow, that is awesome. She's like in the trenches doing the work. That's great. And I don't know how we can work together, but at the very least, I can refer her some students that maybe can get a job, and grateful for that. And then some months later, she invites me to this play called Caught Up. And Caught Up is about a young man's journey while he's incarcerated and his experience and these telephone calls between him and a relative. And I'm thinking I'm going to support community theater, right? So I'm thinking, oh, this will be cute. We're going to help the children and pay our $25, you know? But that wasn't it at all. 5 minutes in, I'm in tears, I'm choked up. And why am I choked up? Because the young man who is the protagonist is telling his story. He was the formerly incarcerated young man. And then I'm choked up because he's telling his story and all of those other stories that never get to be told. And I'm choked up because these kids are doing it. I'm an ACT season ticket holder, and there's some plays I've fallen asleep on. They were doing it. And we got to sit and listen to them share their ideas after the performance. It was amazing. It was amazing. So we invited them to the summit because our summits are interactive. Because in order to create change, you got to feel something. In order for you to get on that keto diet, you got to look in the mirror and go, ooh. So when I'm watching these people, I felt something. I felt like I needed to do something. So I invited them to the summit, and they did a little piece for us that was powerful. We felt connected. We felt the love. So we wanted to share that with you today, and I want you to give them a big, warm welcome to our Gritty City Repertory, Lindsey Krumbein and Robert Paige.
Playwright for our current piece, Black Salt.
Yes, so Gritty City Rep is in Oakland, downtown, and we train 14 to 24-year-old performers of color in year-round ensemble-based theater, free and then paid after they've trained with us for a year. So, we wanted to let you know that we actually have a show opening tonight. Yeah. It is sold out for week 1, but this show, it's called Black Salt. Robert and I co-wrote this play. We're super proud of it. It's set in Oakland, and we would, if you feel inspired by what we present to you here today, we would love to invite you to please buy tickets for our second week. Come witness, support youth arts, and come see our show. There'll be tickets for sale at all price levels in the hallway after, and also more information, so please do come talk to us. So Rob, will you talk to us a little bit about conduct and what we're doing today?
How's everybody doing this morning? Y'all can hear me, right? Yes. Dope. So again, my name is Robert Paige. Like I said, I'm the co-playwright to our current piece, Black Salt. And I also helped co-write our last piece, Caught Up, which was about the prison industrial complex and the challenges people face and the challenges that I face being in that system. So, yes, I am formerly incarcerated. So what that means is that I've been in prison, I've been broke into the school to prison pipeline at a very young age. But as you can see, I was very fortunate to make it out and really make it out in a positive way. So Caught Up was a piece that was originally written when I was in high school. I performed it with Lindsey, and it was around the prison industrial complex, right? So we tackled a range of different issues that stem from that, right? And actually, after we performed that piece, that was about in 2014-ish, I actually ended up getting arrested and incarcerated for the next 3 years. Yeah. And after I was released and able to reintegrate myself into the community, I was fortunate enough to have folks like Lindsey and other folks in my corner who pushed me to get back involved in the community and in theater. And from that, Lindsey asked me one day if we wanted to revise Caught Up. So we revised it and we wrote it from the perspectives of her and my story and other folks in the community. So we interviewed a bunch of folks in the community who are either formerly incarcerated or impacted by incarceration and really just included their raw stories into the production. And so it was a powerful piece, as we spoke to. It was a powerful piece. It was a sellout show, and a lot of folks were inspired and in tears due to the stories. And for me, that was a real healing process, just to see folks being able to look at me and like the keto diet, look in the mirror and say, this is a real human being. These are real issues that this person faced, that this person went through. And there's millions of other people that go through this, right? So we wrote that piece, and from that piece, we're going to perform a little bit of it today, just so we can connect with you all, and you all can kind of get a feel. I mean, I'm sure you all know, you all here today, which is a blessing in itself. I'm sure you all know the impacts that incarceration has on our community. But just to tie it in more, we're going to perform some clips or perform some scenes from that piece. And throughout the performance, we're going to ask you all to get involved in a lot of different ways. I've seen some folks standing up during the last presentation, so I like how committed you all are to being involved. So I'm asking y'all to bring that same energy. Can we do that? One quick question. How many of y'all have been or know someone that's been impacted by incarceration? Awesome. I mean, well, awesome that you all are, I hope, still supporting that person or individual, or if you are the individual, you're here today, that means you've been supported in some way to be out here and to come to these type of summits, right? So for those that weren't able to raise their hand, I hope by the end of this, y'all will be, because y'all will get to know a little bit about me, so I can be the person that you know, right? Cool. All right, so without further ado, I think we want to get into the piece and just share with you all a piece of our stories. All right?
You have a collect call from
Reginald Walters,
an inmate at an Alameda County detention facility. To accept this call, please press 1.
Reggie?
Auntie, what's up? How you doing?
Oh my God, baby, how are you doing? Oh my goodness. I just can't believe how hard it was to get this account set up. I mean, I kept putting in my credit card and then it would just hang up and I couldn't call you back.
Yeah, I figured that's what happened. It's cool. How are the kids?
Oh, honey, how are you?
I'm okay. I'm doing okay. I got your letter. Thank you so much.
Of course, we've just been so, well, okay, I guess I should just, are you eating? What are you eating?
Sort of, not too much. It's not, there isn't much that's appetizing, but I know I'll get used to it.
Well, I went on that Care Pack site and I sent you some things. There's not much with your nutritional value. It's all Slim Jims and Cheetos, terrible stuff. But I sent you some tortillas.
That sounds great.
And some peanut butter.
Thank you.
And some oatmeal packets too. Oh, and some ramen, but there really wasn't much with protein.
That's okay, Auntie. Really. Thank you. That all sounds amazing.
So, okay. I'm not sure what to, so, how are you?
How are you doing, Auntie?
I mean, is it terrible? Are you fighting? Do you have to?
I'm okay. I mean, there's actually some really nice people in here. My Sally's eye. I mean, a couple of guys are kind of, showing me the ropes. Like the do's and the don'ts and all that.
Okay. Well, okay.
Yeah. And well, I'm exercising. I mean, that's pretty much what people do in here.
Okay, well, exercising is good. Endorphins.
Yes, I need those.
Don't we all, baby?
So, how are the kids?
Oh, well, Andrea's the early riser, so she's pretty much trying to whack me in the face every morning at 5 a.m. Mommy, play with me.
Oh, for real? I guess we're getting up at the same time then.
Good Lord, 5 a.m. is early.
Right? Especially when you got nothing else to do. Wake up and stand around all day.
Now that just sounds mean-spirited.
Yeah, they definitely got some gotcha stuff up in here,
You have 1 minute remaining on this call.
Oh my Lord, is that all we get?
It goes fast, huh?
Oh, okay. I'm gonna send you some books and write me a letter, and I will write you a letter, and you'll call me again next week?
I will, Auntie. Kiss the babies for me, okay? And thank you so much. I love you, Lindsey.
I love you too, baby. Should we hang up? I don't want them to cut us off. Should we just say goodbye?
Okay. Love you, Muncie. Talk to you soon.
I love you too. Talk soon. Real soon.
Real quick, what do folks think about that? How did y'all feel? What were some takeaways from the scene y'all just saw? What resonated?
I hate to be simplistic, but I know that I don't like the financial part of it. It's so frustrating. It's like you're in jail and you have to pay to call this person. It's ridiculous. It's just another way to make the system makes money off of incarcerated people.
Right. Yeah. It's expensive too. For folks that that know, it's expensive. Right.
I think sometimes not knowing how to have a conversation with someone that's incarcerated and how to work through that.
Right, exactly. It's a challenging dynamic, right? To have to talk to someone that you might not see for a while and to comfort each other through that process, right? Yeah.
Also just to see two victims at the same time.
Was everybody able to hear that?
No.
Seeing two victims at the same time, right? They're both struggling.
Right.
Yeah.
We were both so stifled, I could tell you all love each other and were close. But couldn't even, I could tell you loved each other and were close, but you couldn't even interact in a normal way, in a warm way. You want to know what's going on with him, but he doesn't want to tell you all the terrible things. He wants to protect. You want to protect each other, and you can't. It's hard.
That was actually my next question. What did Ray do for Reggie, and what did Reggie do for Ray in that scene? I'm sorry. You didn't mix up. Right. For those who come see, y'all see why I messed up. So what did Jay do for Reggie, and what did Reggie do for Jay in that scene to kind of help each other through that process?
Yeah, it seemed a real
being real careful to stay in a positive zone for each other so you don't reopen the trauma or highlight your fears, and that's going to trigger his fears. So it's a very carefulness.
Right. Because the reality is, Jay is going through a lot, right? Having to face all these issues without Reggie, right? To pick up whatever slack he left, watch the kids, bills, and he's going through a lot too. So how do we hold each other in that moment? Right here.
Seems like more of a handshake than a hug, and both of you really needed a hug.
Yeah, that's right.
More importantly, I think both of you guys are really careful with triggers, because triggers are a ripple effect in life. So you don't want to trigger a feeling and action with him, because she doesn't know what's going to happen to him while he's in jail, and you don't want to trigger her because it can ripple off on the family, her friends, her job. Everything goes in jeopardy at the same time. So.
I was going to also add, it's this whole idea of, are we really talking about rehabilitation or punishment, or is this just a big money-making scheme? Like we're feeding inmates unhealthy food, they have unhealthy options. Is there really ways to rebuild yourself, or just to get sucked back into the pipeline? I'm a food guy, so the food stuff is getting to me. It's like, God, we got to feed people a healthy food.
That's a big thing, actually. Food options that you have when you're incarcerated, right? Like, I don't know if you all noticed, but the excitement Reggie had when she told him she ordered Slim Jims and Cheetos, right? So that just tells you how bad the food is if your happiness of food comes from Slim Jims and Cheetos. Not saying that's necessarily bad for those who like these stuff, but but it is really scarce around the options that you have to provide to your health. And your health really ties into your mental health too. So, yeah.
I feel like this was a really powerful thing to share because it helped reveal, at least to me, some of the power of what you're doing in a general sense, due to the discrepancy of knowledge that people have with regard to what happens inside and outside. Right? Like I appreciated this character who was seemingly unaware of what the person inside was going through. Does that make sense? And outside of our media representations of what happens, we deserve and need stories from people who have experienced it in order to learn what these people are going through. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I don't know, right? Like outside of communicating with my family members who then have different stories, right? Some of them are like, it's super bored. I don't do anything. I write you a letter for 3 weeks, right? And some other people are like, I'm working all the time, you know? So it reveals the discrepancy of like information.
Yeah, that's and that's totally true, right? A lot of times we have assumptions, or the media shows us for those of us that aren't aware of what happens, whether you're inside or dealing with somebody who's on the inside, right?
I'd like to see an act two, piggybacking off of that, because we do have these media representations and we do have an understanding of the difficulty of those who are incarcerated and those who are impacted by the carceral state. But I also think the next part of that conversation is, how do individuals like yourself transfer or re-enter society successfully, predicated or based on the fact that our recidivism rates are so high. So we can have this discussion and talk about what goes on inside, but there's also the difficulty that those who are transitioning back to our campuses are faced with. And what are we doing about that? And how are persons like yourself impacting those who don't understand how to navigate this landscape and what it took for you to be successful, and how do we share that to the masses who are failing miserably, so to speak?
Thank you. We'll actually get to that a little later in the piece, just around some of the ways we reintegrate folks, right? And we hold them as they re-enter society. Let's take one more.
I just picked up on you kept mentioning about the time that they're wasting. All we're doing is exercising. We're not doing anything else. You know, this is a key opportunity for the community colleges to partner with the prisons to provide training while they are incarcerated, right? So that when they come out of prison, we're ready for them, right? There are jobs out there.
There'll be opportunities next round. We're gonna keep it moving.
All right, so we're gonna do the scene again, and this time we'll pause and we'll take feedback from the audience, kind of integrate you all into the scene. So we'll pause and we'll ask you all to jump in and Berkeley.
No, they're gonna ask a question.
Yeah.
Can people in the very, very back here? Okay, just double checking.
All right.
You have a select call from
Reginald Walters,
an inmate at an Alameda County detention facility. To accept this call, please press 1.
Reggie?
Auntie, what's up? How you doing?
Oh my God, baby, how are you doing? Oh my goodness, I just can't believe how hard it was to get this account set up. I mean, I kept putting in my credit card and then it would hang up and I couldn't call you back.
Yeah, I figured that's what happened. It's cool. How are the kids?
Oh, honey, how are you?
I'm okay. I'm doing okay. I got your letter. Thank you so much. All right, we're gonna pause right there. So what do y'all think Reggie is feeling at that moment? What is he not saying when he's, trying to express his feelings? What do y'all see happening at that moment? Embarrassment?
Okay, yeah.
Not taking care of his auntie. Yeah, that's what I see. Taking
Her
care.
feelings?
But really not okay.
Right.
Protecting each other by not fully saying what you feel.
Right, yeah. I mean, what do you do at that moment with a loved one, right? You go into a tangent about how terrible it is. And then you also have to remember it's a recorded phone call. How much can you tell that person over a recorded phone call? Can you not say, we're fighting every day, this person is doing that, and that person is doing this? You know what I mean? So it's a lot of that different dynamics. Any other comments or?
Well, it seems the hesitancy to respond to the fact that the inmate is so hesitant
want to be able to get the person to talk more by helping them identify what it is that they're feeling so that they can express what is really going on. But here, they're both trying to save each other, and they're covering up. But I think that one approach might be to kind of try to break through that a little bit and do a little reflection in terms of what's going on.
I also saw too, these phone calls for, was it Reggie? Reggie, are sometimes, seems like it's a break, an escape. And when talking with Jan, he doesn't want to talk about it. This is his few moments of escape in his place. And so that's what I also saw too. Maybe that's part of the hesitancy.
Thank you, that's a good point.
About the escape thing, but it's only a few minutes and you know it. I mean, he hasn't gone. Sorry, thank you. The machine hasn't told you that your 1 minute margarita or whatever, but you already know it's a really short phone call. So how much do you even want to open up because you can't properly wrap up or decompress or talk about anything of substance? And that's unfortunate because it seems like, oh look, we gave you a couple minutes with your loved one, but really, it's nothing.
15 minutes is really brief. Really brief.
I have several takeaways. One being is that when one person is incarcerated, the entire family is doing time with you. The investment of resources, the time spent with the phone calls, the weekend visits, just even the invasion of being searched, just trying to go in with the visits. And then with the recorded phone calls, them recording the calls, one thing that no one ever mentions is the fact that the prisoners are trying to survive during their time there. It's not just the fellow inmates, but it's also the correctional officers. So you have to be mindful of what's being revealed because they use these things as a means of control. I'm sorry, that was too much.
No, that's great, thank you. Yeah. All right, we're gonna keep going through the scene, and we'll pause a few more times and take feedback.
Of course, we've just been so, well, okay, I guess I should just, are you eating? What are you eating?
Sort of, not too much. There's not much that's appetizing, but I know I'll get used to it.
Well, I went on that CarePack site and I sent you some things. There's not much with nutritional value. It's all Slim Jims and Cheetos, terrible stuff. But I sent you some tortillas.
That sounds great.
And some peanut butter. And some oatmeal packets too. Oh, and some ramen. But there really wasn't much with protein.
That's okay, Auntie. Really. Thank you. That all sounds amazing.
So, okay. I'm not sure what to... So, do you...
And we'll pause right there. What is Unrace trying to say in that moment? How is she feeling in that moment? What's unjailed. What is she trying to ask Reggie that she can't ask?
Well, first she's trying to take care of him and in the best way she can, and it doesn't feel adequate because she can't give you what she knows you need, and then she doesn't know what to say because what is there that you can say? Like for the recording, for all the reasons you already mentioned, there's not much you can really get into, like the handshake versus the hug. You can't really say what you want to say. She can't really help in the way that she wants to help.
Got two back there.
So the thing I hear the most is their voices is the fear, just unmitigated, raw fear, and unable to express it because that would make everything too real.
So I kept hearing issues about feeding the body, but what about feeding the mind and the soul? So that seemed kind of a
dangerous territory to go to, but where you really want it to be.
Right. And one way of addressing mine is we have to start the moment, right? And I think that's one of the kind of step backs that isn't happening. How do you address what's going on mentally? You know what I mean?
I'm a person who's actually been through this situation. Both fathers of my kids were incarcerated for long periods of time. And there's a lot going on in these situations. Sometimes there's guilt from both sides. So the conversation is loaded in itself. A lot of times for me, I was homeless while I was trying to send those care packages, right? So even sending chips and all of that was a major, something major that I had to figure out how to do. Not to mention, as the mother, I also was 20 years old and trying to raise 2 kids by myself and wondering if I should wait for this person, but also not wanting to tell them that I want to break up. There's just so much that goes into those moments that don't get to get said. So the heaviness of the moment is just beyond describable, and beyond, and the suffering of the people outside and the suffering of the people out inside sometimes never gets to get talked about, even when the people come out, because it's so painful and it's so harsh.
Say one more.
I was watching you while you were speaking, and just seeing like the gratitude that you conveyed, and I mean, from what I could see, I mean, you were really trying to convey that this was like a highlight for you, like you were so grateful, and there was a disparity between what you did for him and not feeling like it was enough, and for him to feel like, wow, this is like the best thing for me right now, you know, was sweet and it was sad, you know.
Kind of hard to talk on the phone if you only have 1 minute time to talk, and it's hard to talk openly because your conversation is being recorded. So you're paying for a phone call. It would be nice to have at least maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes. But
Yeah.
1 minute is not enough.
It's 15 minutes. The 1 minute is a 1 minute warning. And then
Oh, 1 minute, 1 minute. Maybe it would be nice to be able to have longer time than 15 minutes.
Let's take one more and then
Yeah, thank you. I'm seeing this as just a larger alienation issue besides incarceration. I mean, what I'm hearing also sounds a lot like what's going on in my classroom, where I'm asking, how you guys doing? How you guys doing? What do you need? What are you feeling? And I'm just, okay. You know, so, I mean, we're all alienated. When I'm having a conversation, I'm saying 1 or 2 things. There's a ton more I want to say. I'm not saying it. I'm not getting it back. So, I mean, this is writ large. This is just maybe it's a human psychology alienation issue, but I think this is a great synopsis for how we are going to be facing students on Tuesday and how we break out of our own incarcerated roles. Thank you.
Right? That's a great way to look at it. You see this a lot in society where you have conversations with other folks who you want to help and connect with, but how do y'all have that real honest conversations, right? The trust that you have to build and the openness to not have judgment during those conversations, right? So thank you. That's a good point. Yeah. So for this next piece, I'm going to ask folks if you're able to stand. We're going to kind of be in the center, and we're going to ask you all to actually jump in the scene, right? So the way this is going to work, we're going to do the scene again, and we're going to pause again, and we're going to use you all of y'all voices to kind of reshape the scene, right? What needed to be said? What should have been? You know, what might have helped Jay at that moment and Reggie at those moments when we pause. Yeah?
So you can step in for either of us and say something different. that you think would be more healthy, more productive, or could move us forward in some kind of way. So don't be shy, y'all.
So come on.
All right.
So you can stand up. Yeah,
Yep.
come on. Y'all can feel free to move this chairs back.
Yeah, just shove, kind of bring it a little closer.
Yeah, to make it
All right.
right. There you go.
You have a
Reginald Waters.
An inmate from an Alameda County detention facility. To accept this call, please press 1.
Reggie?
Auntie, what's up? How you doing?
Oh my God, baby, how are you doing? Oh my goodness, I just can't believe how hard it was to get this account set up. I mean, I kept putting in my credit card and then it would just hang up and I couldn't call you back.
Yeah, I figured that's what happened. It's cool. How's the kids?
Oh, honey, how are you?
Kids miss you every day. We pray for you every day.
Thank you.
Someone step in for Reggie. What should he say? How is he? Someone come on in, be brave.
Don't be shy.
Sucks here. The food is bad. I hate life, but I'm getting through it. I'm doing what I need to do. Why do I have to be here?
I miss you and the kids.
Just thinking you might want to.
I miss you and the kids so much. It's so hard to be away from you guys.
It just seems like it's a moment he wants to
Say it. Be like her.
I gotta be honest. I cry. I don't want to tell anybody. I can't tell anybody here, but this is breaking me. I cry.
Come on up.
Nephew, be strong. We're gonna see you in a couple of years. Be strong.
I saw my cousin Michael yesterday.
So even though I'm not with you physically, I'm with you in spirit, we think about you and tell the kids about you and tell them that you're going to be coming home and you're going to be learning new things, and we're hoping to make the best of this.
I miss you. I love you.
Why? Why?
I'm sorry. I'm scared. I can't talk to nobody about it here. And there's things I want to say that I can't say.
Stay in touch. Write a letter. Put it in the letter.
We're going to make sure there's lots of opportunities for you when you get home.
I hate you have to pay for a phone call.
What do y'all want to say to y'all loved ones going through situations like this?
You got some promise after that? When you finish with your prime, when you get home, what you gonna do? You do the same thing? You come home act right?
Auntie, can I stay with you when I get out?
Think every day about your plans when you're out. What are you going to do differently? Stay strong. When it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger, but keep your eyes on the prize. What's your plan? Make sure that you reflect on yourself while you're inside and just think of everything that you've done.
Your daughter had a great day at school the other day. She got an A on her science project, which hates math. Your son, on the other hand, I don't know. I know that he really enjoys school, but getting him out the door in the morning is really hard. And I just think it's important to share daily events, especially about kids.
Just because you were found guilty, I believe in your innocence.
I believe in you.
Thank you so much, folks.
Thank you all for participating. I know that was, kind of a jump to integrate you all. I'm sure a lot of people were nervous, but I appreciate all of your voices and all the comments that were shared. Because a lot of times I had personally went through this situation, and it really was hard to have these conversations, right? There was things I wanted to say that I wasn't able to say. Things I wish I could have done. Shoot, I wish I could have got hugs. But this is through this conversation, we humanize the folks that are going through this, right? Someone said that I believe in your innocence, right? Because the fact is, we all make mistakes. We all make mistakes. Sorry. And we either discard the folks who make those mistakes, or we embrace them, right? And we embrace them in a way that tells them they're human, they're real people, and we're going to help you through that process. Someone over here talked earlier about what do we do when that person gets out? That's one of the real issues, right? Like I talked about, I was fortunate enough to come out and step into a community that still welcomed me, that still loved me. Like folks like Lindsey and other folks in my community. So I'm one of the few that was able to get out of prison. I'm off parole. I finally got off parole last month. And that was a hard accomplishment. It was a real hard accomplishment. Especially when a lot of my peers, even my brothers, got rearrested, right? And went back to prison and is doing more time, right? They didn't have the same luxuries or benefits I had on having community support. I grew up in a household where neither of my parents were there. I was raised with my grandmother, and she even passed when I was in high school. So these are the situations we're facing. A lot of the folks that are inside grew up without parents, grew up without people in their corners, right? It was literally told when I was in 9th grade, I didn't know nothing about AP classes or PADEC. I didn't know about the different services that was out there. All I seen was my peers who I was with in 9th grade and 10th grade go to classes that I knew nothing about. I was asking, where did this person go? Where did that person go? They were AP classes. I didn't get that benefit. I didn't have parents to advocate for me. So of course, and like a lot of other individuals, I was pipelined into prison, right? When we let little children face this great big monster we call the prison industrial complex, and just take them away and say, you're not human anymore. You're going to help maintain this economy by being a second-class citizen, right? And just constantly, over and over again, be put in that situation. At some point, their mental health tells them, they tell themselves that they're not worthy, that this is the life they have to live. There's no other options, right? So it took a long time, even after I got out, even after opportunities came to me, I still was telling myself, this isn't real, it's not what I'm supposed to be living. I don't get that luxury. My peers are getting back incarcerated, friends and loved ones are getting incarcerated. How can I do anything with theater? How can I do anything with community organizing? You know what I mean? So it's on folks like you all, and I appreciate you all for being in the space and taking this step. It's on folks like us to embrace folks into the community and work with them and build those opportunities for them and to remind them that, we're all human. We all make those mistakes, but those mistakes don't define us. Only how we bounce back from those mistakes, right? So I want to thank you all for participating. Can I get another round of applause?
Building in downtown Oakland in a new theater at 15th and MLK. And we have flyers and all kinds of stuff, so just come find us out there if you're interested and at grittycityrep.org. All right.
Thank you. Thank you for coming in, Gritty City, Lindsey and Robert. I really appreciate it. The hope was that we would share one little thing that we're doing at Berkeley City College, and to have people just have one moment to feel a little bit, right? And to begin to build the compassion and empathy necessary to do the work that we do. Before I get into logistics for the day, at the very back of the program, there is this vow that I am asking and inviting you to take. It comes from Musha Maketa, who is the head of the East Bay Meditation Center. And I really like this because it kind of helps remind us about taking care of yourself. It says, aware of suffering and injustice, I, write your name there, and working to create a more just, peaceful, and sustainable world. I promise, for the benefit of all, to practice self-care, mindfulness, healing, and joy. I vow not to burn out. And the reason for this is that we are investing in each other in this community, and that we need to make sure that we are taken care of along with our students. We can't take care of our students if we are not taking care of each other. That's super important. I feel like looking for each other in these meetings, in the workshops that are out there, supporting each other, saying thank you, are super important things. So thank you for coming. Just a few little logistics as we get out of here. We're landing right on time. Communication, Humanities, and Journalism is S305. All evaluations for this morning workshop, for every workshop, can be done online. It helps me get a sense of what's going on. I give the feedback back to all the workshop folks, all the presenters. And lunch will be served in the disciplines. We'll be delivering to the S building, and we'll distribute them through your meeting. So facilitators, if you could help pick up the boxes, that'll make it a lot easier. I want to say thank you again for the coming to today, the beginning of 2020, the beginning of a decade. It's kind of a crazy day. Yes? Oh, does it? Okay, we'll figure out some rooms and we'll get it to you by then. Okay? Thank you. I apologize for the mistakes. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day, a great rest of tomorrow at your College Flex, and have a great beginning of the semester on Tuesday. Take care.